Welcome into the Bluegrass Burnouts YouTube channel. Today we're going to be going over our post-week 4 top 10 power rankings. Cody, I'm going to go ahead and start us off. I got a guy who didn't have the best week, but has had a strong season. So far this year, he's sitting at 14th in points, and that is Carson Hocevar. Still pretty solid, had a solid year, didn't have the best weekend this year, but he's still got a top 10 and a top 5 on the year. And he doesn't have any DNFs, though, too. That's one reason why I kept him in the 10. Doesn't have any DNFs. That's who my number 10 is.
Absolutely, man. And we'll talk about him more later on, not as a spoiler there, but has been very consistent speed wise. So he's
Yes,
definitely
exactly.
maybe hasn't had the results, a couple accidents, but has definitely had the speed. At my 10, new to my list, I've got Denny Hamlin.
I like it.
Another guy we talked about, Larson last week saying how long is going to take for him to get into the list. And the answer is this week. He had a good week this week, had a good run, bumped up 11 points up to 12, or sorry, 11 spots up to 12th in points. Another guy that's had some speed, maybe hasn't had the finishes that you would expect out of him. I believe he's only got 2 top 10s on the year, but as the points start to build, the momentum starts to build. It's always got a chance to be the year for Hamlin. So he's at my 10.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I don't have Denny Hamlin on my list, but if I was going to give an honorable mention, that's who it was going to go to.
Yeah, he's
Now,
he's right on that edge, man. He's right on that edge there.
he's so close. Same thing with William Byron. He's not on mine this week either. He dropped out for me, but a guy that did come into my list first time this year, guy who's sitting at 10th in points. A guy we really haven't talked about a lot this year, despite having a top 10 or 2 top 10s and a top 5. Kyle Larson.
Yep.
That is who I have on here.
Yes, sir.
Kyle, not the best road course guy. Definitely not the best super speedway guy, unfortunately.
Definitely not.
But we are back to tracks that are kind of his wheelhouse. More normal NASCAR tracks.
Normal
So
tracks.
Kyle Larson is just going to start shooting up everything. He is in 10th
Absolutely.
place. He's in 10th place now in points. Don't believe he was top 5 in points last week, or top 10 in points, excuse me.
He was
But
not,
he's,
no.
but he's there. He had a great week, and he could defend the championship. It's going to be tough with
Yeah.
how the Chevys have looked so far, but it's always possible. It's always
And
possible.
man, went out there, finished third, had a great run, had a fast car, and you got Las Vegas coming up. It's all to play for. At my 9, I got the guy you just mentioned. I've got Carson Hocevar. Had a rough week. Like I said, my big thing is just the speed has been there consistently. Obviously, the super speedways, he had a great race. Both of those kind of got involved in the accident somewhat, but still looked really good. Didn't have a great week at Coda. Didn't have a great week this week either. So he dropped 3 spots for me, but I think the speed has been there. I think he's showing really great promise in the place that he's at right now. And I still think that he was a guy that I honestly considered dropping out, maybe even dropping slightly further. But with the speed that they've had, I feel good keeping him at my 9.
Yeah, I was really torn on this one, Cody, but I went with Michael McDowell at my number 8.
I
I do
respect
not
that.
have
I
do not have
respect it.
Chris Buescher in my list this week, and I was very torn between the two of them. One sitting at 8, one sitting at 9. They have the exact same amount of points, but the plain just difference is Michael McDowell has a top 5 and 2 top 10s. Chris
Yep.
Buescher only has 1 top 10 on the year.
Yeah.
That's why I went with Michael McDowell in that spot.
Yeah, I will say I contemplated McDowell. I didn't end up going with him. I slid Hamlin in right above him. And
Fair enough.
it's
No, I
it's
respect that.
something we talk about with having confidence in a guy. And I love McDowell. Don't get me wrong, that is my boy. I will always love to see him run well. But at the end of the day, I have more trust in Hamlin to do better throughout the rest of the season, and that just gives him a slight edge. I think they look pretty similar, the 2 top 10s, the 1 top 5, and they're not far off in points. I think they have a 4-point differential there. So I just gave him the slight nod there, but big shout out to McDowell. At my 8, jumping up another spot, I've got SVG, man. What a week for the 97, going out and having an excellent race. Got 11th this week on an oval, kind of starting to figure him out here. He's sitting out there at 5th in points. And that's really all there is to say. He's off to a heck of a start. Obviously, has the second place last week at Coda, one of the tracks that he's really strong at. And if he figures out his ovals, it could be dangerous. So
Could be very
inching in on
dangerous.
that top 10 this week. And man, I'm curious to see if he's able to keep it up.
My number 5, Cody. I have Joe.
Five.
Or excuse me. I switched this guy between 5 and 7, and that's why I said that.
All right, I was like, dang, we skipped a few there.
I
No,
know,
you're,
I know.
you're
My
good
number
then.
7. My number 7. Excuse me. I have Joey Logano. There's a
I think
couple
that's fair.
guys that I feel like Joey's had a little bit better of a season. However, I am just simply going off of the points because I feel like they've had very similar years according between the next two guys that I have above him.
Yeah.
But Joey's had a great year so far. A couple of things have not gone his way, and Joey could easily have a win, or he easily could be, instead of top 10 in points, he could be top 5 in points.
Yeah, absolutely. At my 7, again, new to my list, I have Christopher Bell. And man, we've talked about it. Did he have a week this week? Honestly, if you're being real, give him one more lap. He wins this race, and we're having a whole different conversation here. But at the end of the day, he was the most dominant car. He went out there and performed. He wasn't on my list last week, and to be honest, he wasn't even really near my list last week. He was a guy that we kind of knew could get up there at some point, but just hadn't had the year. He jumps 18 points or 18 spots in points this week. Incredible jump for the 20 team, up to sixth place. My thing is he just hasn't had the year, that we had come to see from him, the consistent that we had seen. He has 2 top 5s, 2 top 10s. And it's just but the races in between there maybe weren't the best. So want to see more out of him, but absolutely a guy that can continue to jump up. I just didn't want to bump him up too high, like coming into the ranking just after, having one really solid week, but it can expect to continue to see Bell to rise here.
Yeah, definitely. Number 6, I got a guy you already mentioned, Cody, SVG.
Yeah, man.
I was torn between SVG and the guy that I have above him. SVG does technically have more points, but the guy that I have above him, has a top 5, but he also has a DNF. So SVG, like you said, if he figures out the ovals, it could potentially be an
Could be a
insane year for
nightmare.
him. It could be an insane year. I feel like he has proven enough that he is good enough on ovals to be here.
Oh, for sure.
It's not just the allure of his first start. He got to win. But I am very, very excited to see what he does the rest of the year.
Yeah, man, absolutely. At my 6, I've got Kyle Larson, and my big thing, obviously he got third this week. He's a little further down on the point schedule, but what really impressed me this week especially, I kind of bumped him into my list. I believe I had him at 7 last week, somewhere around there. But him going out this week and essentially coming from the back, like he was mid 20s very early on in this race, drove all the way up to third. Darn well had a shot to win this thing. I was very impressed with the driving that he put on this week. Not that that should surprise anybody. He's one of the best drivers on the planet, but I gave him that jump there. He jumped 2 spots for me, and a guy that I think we're going to be talking about a little bit later this week.
Yeah, definitely. My number 5, Cody, I have Christopher Bell. Not the best year, however, he has not had the best luck. But even through 4 races, he's got 2 top 5s, 2 top 10s. If it wasn't for a little bit of bad luck, he would be sitting there, with that DNF, like I mentioned with SVG.
Yeah.
If he didn't have that DNF, could have a little bit more points, could be sitting a little bit higher, might have even won a race or two. You never know. Or excuse me, just that race. You never really know when these guys get damaged, especially on the drafting
Especially
tracks
the
where he
super
got it.
speedways, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But I am confident with putting him here, and it's looking like we are going to get another great year out of Christopher Bell after a little bit of a slow start.
Wouldn't be shocked at all. At all. At my 5, I have Joey Logano. And this is one that I kind of wrestled with a little bit. putting him in the spot that I did. But the reason that he's in the same spot I had him last week. And the reason that I decided to do that is because his finish this week does not reflect anything that happened this week. He gets involved in that accident, one that you definitely could argue was his fault. But when you have the guy that's in 31st finishing the race with 23 points, that's a hell of a week. And, he gets involved in that accident, and it's tough, but he still gets a decent points week here, has the fastest lap, started on the pole, led a bunch of laps. I just think that even though he may not have had the result, he was still able to go out and get points with only finishing 2 stages. And gosh, I was so impressed with what they did, and he only dropped one spot in points. I didn't feel like I could truthfully punish him when the only bad thing is his finishing position this week.
Cody, I really do feel like that we have the same top 4.
It's definitely a possibility.
It is definitely a possibility. We know we have the top 2. We know that the top 2 is really Tyler Reddick and Ryan Blaney. They're the only 2 that have won a race. Reddick's won 3. Blaney's won 1. So the difference here is our 3 and our 4.
It is, yeah.
Now we had the same 3 and we had the same 2 and 3 last week. Who it's going to be these 2 guys. Now, at least for me, I switched them. I have Chase Elliott at 4.
I have also switched them.
And I have Bubba Wallace at 3. And the main reason is because Bubba finished better than Chase this week.
Yeah, he did. He absolutely did.
We talked about it last week when they were at 2 and 3.
By quite a margin, too.
Yes.
The points differential is major this week.
Yes. And Bubba is now, those top 3 guys have you could include Elliott in that too. Those top 4 guys have a massive point differential. Now, Reddick just has a massive one in general. The next closest guy is Ryan Blaney, and he's 60. The next closest Chase Elliott, who's 4th in that group, is 97 points behind him. But the thing is, Bubba finished better than Chase this week. It was by a good margin. We said it last week. These 2 guys are kind of in that spot right now where neither of them have a win. It's kind of just going to depend on who finishes better in these races.
It really is, yeah.
I feel like really if Chase finishes better next week, I'll probably bump Chase above Bubba. If Bubba has a better week, probably keep him there. You never know. Maybe somebody like Joey Logano or Chris Bell might enter in this area. But for now, that is a solid 4, 3, 2, and 1.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, kind of like you said, we're obviously both in agreement here. And I think power rankings wise, like you kind of have to have, it's kind of convenient because they're the top 4 in points, but they're there for a reason. Like,
exactly.
Reddick, 4 top 10s. Only guy with 4 top 10s. Blaney with 3. Bubba with 3. Chase with 2. And there are a bunch of other guys with 2. And then you've got Bell with the 2 top 5s. So maybe Chase hasn't exactly had the finishes, but points-wise, he's there. He's right there in that 4th spot.
He's also been there in the end as well.
Absolutely.
And that's what really matters.
Guy that had a chance to win the 500. He has a good race at Coda. I believe he was there at Atlanta as well.
Yes.
I can't exactly remember.
Bubba also could have really been there too if he didn't get caught up in the stuff with Byron when he just got out of line.
Man. Like these top 4, obviously you have your 2 winners. And, if Christopher Bell goes out and wins that race, we're definitely having a different conversation here.
Exactly.
But even if that does happen, I don't know if you bump Bell up to 2 based off the year that he's had.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know if he makes that jump, but Blaney, I think he jumped 5 points for me last week, or 5 positions. This was just an easier jump getting him up those 2 spots, and got pumped for Blaney. It's just kind of they're all, apart from Reddick, I still think that Blaney and Bubba could be super close. Like if, say, Blaney goes out and just has a horrible week next week, he could go below Bubba. Like it's not like just because you have that win, you're in second, but Blaney definitely deserves that spot. But like you mentioned, I'm super pumped to see how that Bubba and Chase lineup goes, because it would be super cool to see them continue fighting for that spot We've seen the speed at a 23:11 this year. Bubba absolutely has the speed to go out and do it. Finished sixth this week, had a great run, 37 points total. And God, it's just, he's one of those guys where I'm pretty sure we've already had this conversation, but you see a win in the future, near future. Like you can just see it on the horizon. It's coming. It's there, especially with how quick his teammate has been. We can talk enough about, drafting track super speedway, blah, blah, blah. His teammate has 3 wins. One is coming for him. But
100%. 100%.
On the other side of that, I could say that for so many different people in this field.
You could say that for SVG. You could say that for Christopher Bell. You could say it for Joey. You could say it for, realistically,
absolutely,
the entire top 10, and even William Byron, too, because Byron hasn't had the best year, at least up to his standard.
Hocevar.
Yes.
I mean, there are so many drivers. You could absolutely say that. And obviously, a lot of these guys are going to be your top team guys. But that doesn't even truthfully matter here. It's just guys that obviously guys that have proven that they can do it in the past. But it's just never, you can't count any of these guys out. But personally for me this week, it was very difficult to go. I know we talked about having guys just on the outside, having guys on the inside. Like it was very difficult to make these decisions, especially towards the lower part of the list. And we say it a lot, but truthfully, at the end of the day, it is the perfect way to put it. It is all still to play for. Even Reddick having that 60-point gap, it only takes one race.
It does.
It only takes one race for him to have an issue, get 0 points, someone else to win a race, and we've got a 10-point points gap just like that. That is all it takes.
It's just like our power. It's just like our pick'ems. It is exactly like it is. I mean,
absolutely.
But shout out to us. We have picked the 2 winners the past 2 weeks
in a row,
which we will be talking about that later in the week, which cars we're picking. Cody, you got anything else?
I'm feeling pretty confident about that going into this week. I'm not going to lie. There's definitely a couple cars you could take, but I think we might get lucky again this week. I think that there's a certain couple of cars that are going to be the ones to pick here. So, and at the end of the day, who truthfully knows? We could be completely wrong. Those guys could, there could be an accident that takes out all the good cars. You never know. But man, it's kind of nice to have that good pick, that strong feeling that comes true.
I got you. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. But Cody, I feel like we have said as much as we need to say for this. It's been a great season so far. We're only 4 races in. And as always, let us know how we did.
32 to go, baby.
Like we always say, you're not my dad. You can't tell me what to do. So, but we'd love to hear what your guys' power rankings are in the comments. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Thank you guys for watching. You have a good rest of your day.